Imagine receiving an anonymous letter that leads you to investigate a dark mystery. Ethan Turner, with his relentless curiosity, finds himself drawn to an old mansion that harbors unsettling secrets and a haunted past. The last person who dared to enter Sarah vanished without a trace. What does this mansion hide? And why does Ethan feel compelled to uncover the truth at any cost? In this video, you'll follow Ethan on a journey of terrifying discoveries, where each step could lead him to answers, or into the unknown. Get ready for a story full of suspense, mystery, and decisions that could change everything.
Behind the doors.
Ethan Turner had a curious heart, pulsing with the adrenaline of discovery and the passion for uncovering hidden truths. On that cloudy morning, as the wind gently rustled the dry leaves in the small town of Maplewood, he sat at his desk, absorbed in a world of accounts and articles about local mysteries. The dim morning light streamed through the window at oblique angles, creating an atmosphere conducive to reflection. It was then that a crumpled brown envelope with no return address caught his attention. With trembling fingers full of anticipation, Ethan tore open the envelope, revealing a handwritten letter, penned in hurried and shaky handwriting. The mansion on the hill is not just an old house. Sarah, the last one who dared to enter, vanished without a trace. There are secrets that must be uncovered, the message read, like a distant echo reverberating in the walls of his mind. Ethan's heart raced. He knew the mansion's story. Many considered it haunted, a place where the wails of lost souls could be heard at nightfall. Sarah. Who is she? He muttered to himself, as his mind filled with questions. He remembered hearing whispers in town about a young woman who had ventured into the house, drawn by an inexplicable force. Her disappearance was a mystery that haunted the community, a constant reminder of the dangers lurking in the dark. Determined to investigate, Ethan got up and went to the town library, where he began researching the mansion and Sarah's tragic story. He sifted through old newspaper clippings filled with accounts of the place. Stories of screams in the night, visions of dancing shadows in the broken windows, and a sense that something was watching. With each new piece of information, Ethan's curiosity transformed into a burning desire to uncover the truth. "You shouldn't get involved with this, Ethan," warned his friend Laura, as they sipped coffee at the town cafe. "The house is dangerous. People talk about what happened there, and you know many never returned." "But that's exactly why I need to go," Ethan replied, his voice edged with determination. "If I can discover what happened to Sarah, maybe I can help bring peace to the town. And maybe even to Sarah herself." Laura sighed, concerned. "Just be careful. Don't let your curiosity lead you to a place you can't return from." As the sun began to set, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple, Ethan made his way to the mansion, perched atop a hill covered in twisted, thick trees. The path was winding and flanked by bushes, as if nature was trying to hide the house from curious eyes. As he approached, Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. The mansion loomed before him, imposing and silent, its dusty windows seeming to watch him. "It's just an old house," Ethan told himself, trying to push away the growing fear. But as he crossed the rusty gate, a strange sensation enveloped him. It was as if the house itself was alive, pulsing with a dark rhythm. He paused for a moment, listening intently. Then a soft, almost inaudible whisper floated through the air, calling his name. "Ethan? Ethan?" Ethan's heart raced. He looked around, but there was no one there, only the wind, whispering forgotten secrets. With a mix of fear and fascination, he moved forward, determined to uncover the secrets the mansion held. Every step he took toward the entrance was a step deeper into an abyss of mysteries, and perhaps into a web of consequences he could not yet comprehend. Ethan hesitated for a moment before the mansion's door, his hand trembling slightly as he prepared to push it open. The air around him felt heavy, as if the house was breathing, waiting for his entrance. With a deep breath, he finally decided, and the door creaked open, revealing a dark, dusty hall. The smell of mold and rotting wood filled his nostrils, intensifying the discomfort that had followed him since he received the anonymous letter. As soon as he stepped inside, The daylight faded, and shadows danced on the walls as his eyes adjusted to the dimness. The wooden floor creaked under his feet, and a sharp chill ran down his spine. "Sarah," he murmured, remembering the young woman whose life had been tragically cut short. Her name echoed in his mind, a constant reminder of why he was there. In the depths of the room, Ethan spotted an old dust-covered desk. As he approached, he noticed a small locked box. With some effort, he managed to open it, revealing a worn-out diary. The pages were yellowed, and the words were written in hurried handwriting. "Visions, voices, I'm not alone," he read aloud, feeling a chill run through his body. "What happened here?" he whispered as if the walls could answer. As he examined the diary, a yellowed photo slipped out. Ethan picked it up, revealing a group of smiling young people gathered in front of the mansion. Sarah and her friends, he thought, recognizing the face of the girl who had drawn him there. However, another face in the picture also caught his attention. A particular young man seemed familiar. "Mark," Ethan murmured, remembering the name he had heard around town. "He's the only one who survived." Determined to learn more, Ethan pulled the diary closer. Sarah's notes spoke of strange experiences, of whispers calling her name, of shadows moving through the house. "If you're reading this, don't enter," he read in one entry, a warning that made his heart race. "They're always lurking. We should never have come here." "You won't leave me here, will you?" A male voice interrupted his thoughts. Ethan turned quickly, seeing a disheveled young man with a lost look standing in the doorway. "Mark?" Ethan asked. Mark hesitated, his gaze shifting to the floor. "I survived, but I'm not really alive." His voice was a whisper, as if he feared the house itself might swallow him. "All my friends, they're gone, and I'm responsible." "Responsible? How?" Ethan asked, curiosity mixed with empathy. "What happened on the night of the accident? What really happened here?" Mark took a deep breath, his hands trembling. "It was a night of partying. We were having fun. But something changed. The voices started calling, and we couldn't resist. A tragedy happened, and I was the only one who got out. Since then, I've tried to forget, but the house won't let me go." The tension between them grew, Mark's story reverberating through the mansion's walls. Ethan felt the weight of the young man's suffering, and at the same time, the urgency to understand what had happened. "We need to find out what happened to Sarah and her friends. This diary might help us," Ethan suggested, holding the diary close. Mark looked down, his eyes full of pain. "You don't understand. The house doesn't want you to discover anything. It has taken many before, and it might take you too." Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. "But I can't stop now. We need to know the truth." He realized that the determination in his gaze was also a way to face his own fears. "If you really want to do this, you must be prepared for what's to come," Mark warned, his voice almost a whisper. "The house has its own secrets, and not all of them are benevolent." With those words, the atmosphere around them seemed to shift, as if the house itself was watching, eager to reveal its mysteries. Ethan knew he was about to delve deeper into a journey that could cost more than just the truth. Mark was visibly anxious as he approached the mansion once again. The wind howled through the trees, as if nature itself was warning them not to come any closer. The daylight was slowly fading, creating a dark and oppressive atmosphere. Ethan, on the other hand, was determined. He felt that there was something deeper to be discovered there, something that Mark, because of his pain and loss, couldn't see. "Are you really sure this is a good idea?" Mark asked, hesitating as he stood before the mansion's door. His hands trembled slightly, and he looked at Ethan with a mix of concern and fear. "We should leave the past behind. I know it's hard, but we need to understand what happened." "Sarah deserves that," Ethan replied, his voice firm. He knew that the search for truth could be dangerous, but it was also the only way to bring closure to everyone involved. Mark let out a heavy sigh. All right, but if something happens, don't say I didn't warn you. With a swift motion, he pushed the door, which creaked ominously, as if protesting their intrusion. The inside of the mansion, the two of them entered and were immediately enveloped by an atmosphere of oppression. The walls were covered in dust and cobwebs, and the floor creaked under their feet. The sunlight filtered timidly through the broken windows, creating dancing shadows on the walls. Let's head straight to the room we found last time, Ethan suggested, and Mark nodded, though his expression showed he wasn't convinced of the safety of the undertaking. As they moved deeper into the house, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was watching them. A chill ran down his spine, and he paused for a moment, trying to listen. "Did you hear that?" he asked in a whisper. Mark also stopped, his expression tense. "What did you hear?" "It was like a whisper. Something calling me," Ethan responded, and doubt began to creep into his mind. "Let's go. We need to keep moving." When they reached the door to the secret room, Ethan grabbed the handle, but it was locked. "This is where Sarah kept her findings. We need to get inside," he insisted. Mark hesitated. "What if we shouldn't? What if there's something in there we're not ready to face?" "We can't back out now," Ethan said, determined. He took a few steps back and with a running start, rammed his shoulder into the door. It gave way with a deafening crash, revealing a room shrouded in dust and mystery. Inside, personal items were scattered everywhere, and a porcelain doll caught Ethan's attention. His eyes widened as he approached. "Look at this," he said, delicately holding the doll. An inscription on its base read, "Don't wake up." "What does this mean?" Mark took a step back, uneasy. "That's disturbing. I don't like this, Ethan. We need to get out now." Before Ethan could respond, a shadow moved quickly at the back of the room, like a cold breath of air. A scream involuntarily escaped Mark's lips, and they ran toward the door. "I don't want to die here," he screamed, his panic now evident. But Ethan stopped, holding the door firmly, his heart pounding. "No, wait. We need to face this. We can't let fear control us." Mark looked at Ethan, his eyes full of terror. "You're crazy. This isn't just a house, Ethan. There are things here we can't explain." "I know it's risky, but if we don't face it, we'll never know the truth," Ethan replied, his voice firm. He was determined to discover what really happened in that mansion, even if it meant confronting his own demons. "I need to do this." With one last look of despair, Mark hesitated, but finally took a step back. "You're on your own then. I can't stay. If you go, I can't help you." And with that, he disappeared through the door, leaving Ethan alone in the darkness, determined to face the reality hidden within the abandoned mansion. Ethan stood in the middle of the dark room, as the heavy atmosphere of the mansion seemed to intensify, as if the very structure was alive, absorbing the tension between them. The echo of the whispers that had once seemed distant now reverberated in his mind, their words, though indistinct, carrying a weight Ethan couldn't ignore. "You don't understand, Ethan. We need to get out of here now," Mark pleaded, his voice trembling. He approached the door, but Ethan was already moving away, drawn by an invisible force guiding him toward the darkness. "I need to know more. Something is calling me, Mark. I feel like I'm close to discovering the truth," Ethan replied, determination in his voice mingled with a certain fear. Mark shook his head, his disheveled hair falling over his forehead. "The truth? The truth is that this house is a tomb. Those who enter don't come out. You heard the whispers, didn't you? They're trying to warn you." A chill ran down Ethan's spine, but he didn't back down. "What if those whispers are the key? I can't just ignore them." He turned, watching the dancing shadows on the walls, trying to discern something among them. With a frustrated sigh, Mark moved toward one of the dusty windows. "If you don't leave now, it might be too late. The last person who got lost here. She never came back." His tone was grim, as if the words were a warning for Ethan and a lament for Sarah. But Ethan wasn't listening. When he touched the surface, a sensation of cold ran through his fingers. "Mark, help me with this. There's something here." Mark hesitated, but seeing the determination in Ethan's eyes, he reluctantly approached. Together, they pushed against the wall, which slowly gave way, revealing a passage that led to a dark, damp basement. The air down there was dense, filled with the smell of mold and something else, something that seemed to pulse with a life of its own. "I don't like this, Ethan. Let's go back," Mark shouted, recoiling as he felt the pressure of the darkness emanating from the basement. "Mark, please. I'm almost there," Ethan insisted, descending the steps, the light from his flashlight flickering like a candle in a storm. As he went deeper, strange symbols began to appear on the walls, crudely carved as if they were marks of a forgotten ritual. "Look at this," Ethan said, pointing to a particular symbol that seemed to glow faintly. "What do you think it means?" "I don't know, but it's not good. Let's get out before something happens," Mark replied, his voice now a whisper, almost lost in the darkness of the environment. Ethan ignored the warning and approached an old, locked, dust-covered box. It was small, but it emanated a strange energy as if it were alive. "We need to open this," he said, more to himself than to Mark. "You're crazy." "What do you think you'll find in there?" Mark questioned, his voice filled with despair. "Didn't you see what happened to Sarah and those others? Why do you want to end up like them?" "Because I need to know. What happened here needs to be revealed. I can't leave without understanding," Ethan replied, his determination growing as the box's pulsation seemed to intensify. Mark stepped back, looking around as if he feared something was about to manifest. "If you open that, it won't just be the truth that comes out. It could be something much worse." Ethan hesitated for a moment, feeling the weight of the choice. The shadows around him seemed to press closer, and the whispers grew louder, now almost like desperate cries. "Mark, I can't turn back now. We're already here. We need to find out what this house wants to tell us." Mark's eyes were full of terror, but Ethan remained resolute. With trembling hands, he sought a way to open the box, determined to uncover the secrets the mansion had kept hidden for so long. The tension-laden air surrounded them, and as the moment approached, they both knew that nothing would ever be the same. Ethan hesitated for a moment before the ancient box, his fingers trembling as he opened it. As soon as the lid lifted, a wave of almost palpable energy emanated from within, as if the house itself was breathing through the object. Immediately, tumultuous visions began to invade his mind. Familiar faces, distant laughter, and an oppressive sense of despair. He saw the mansion in its heyday, full of life, but soon the images distorted, revealing scenes of dark rituals, with lit candles and whispers reverberating through the walls. "Ethan! Ethan!" Mark's voice cut through the trance, sounding distant, as if he was trying to break through an invisible barrier. "Snap out of it! You need to come back!" But the box's influence was powerful, and Ethan felt himself being pulled into the visions. He saw the house's former inhabitants, dark and anguished figures, performing rituals to bind their souls to the living world. Each act was marked by desperate intensity, a quest for control over the uncontrollable. He could almost hear the muffled screams of people who had succumbed to the same need for power, for immortality. "Ethan, listen to me," Mark shouted, his voice now filled with panic. "You need to get out. They're coming closer." At that moment, Ethan realized he was not alone. Footsteps echoed in the distance, and the darkness around him seemed to stir. He tried to focus on Mark, but the visions held him captive as if the house was deciding his fate. His friend's presence was a thread of hope, but reality was fading fast. "Who's there?" Ethan managed to murmur, his voice almost lost amid the murmurs that filled the air. His heart raced when a shadow took shape before him, an indistinct silhouette slowly approaching. "Ethan." The voice was soft, almost melodious, but it carried immense weight. The figure lit up, revealing itself as Sarah, the girl whose disappearance had started this entire journey. Her face was pale, her eyes empty, but there was a deep and understandable sadness in her gaze. You're Sarah?" Ethan stammered, struggling to process the reality of the apparition. The sensation of being in a dream intensified, but the pain in his chest anchored him. "Yes, it's me." Her voice was like an echo, reverberating through the dark room. "I'm trapped here just like the others. You need to understand what happened, Ethan." Mark, still nearby, watched in silence, the expression of despair and helplessness etched on his face. This isn't good, Ethan. She's here, but not by choice. Don't trust her. Shut up, Ethan snapped, frustration evident in his voice. He turned back to Sarah, who seemed to writhe under the pressure of the situation. What do you want from me? Release. Her words were loaded with deep longing. We were victims of a ritual meant to protect us, but it trapped us here. You are the key, Ethan. You can help us, but you need to understand the truth. Stop stalling. What do I need to do? The urgency inside him was growing, while the darkness around them seemed to tighten. You must confront what's inside you. What ties you to this house? Sarah explained, her voice now a whisper. Only then can we find peace. The tension in the room rose, and Ethan could feel the house's threatening presence around him, as if the walls were closing in. He turned to Mark, who seemed increasingly terrified. Mark, what do you know about this? What happened to you and your friends? Mark hesitated, his eyes narrowing. We can't stay here, Ethan. We need to leave before it's too late. But Ethan's determination did not waver. He looked at Sarah, seeking an answer. Any answer that could help them escape the prison they were in. I can't leave you here. I won't leave you trapped. You're stronger than you think, Sarah said, her voice now almost a whisper. However, you'll need to face the truth you're hiding from yourself. The shadows began to stir, and Ethan felt a wave of courage mixed with primal fear. He was about to uncover the secrets the house held, and the truth might be more terrifying than anyone could imagine. The atmosphere in the mansion was heavy, as if the very air was saturated with despair and unspoken secrets. Ethan, paralyzed by the ethereal presence of Sarah, the young woman who had disappeared years ago, felt his heart race. The ghostly figure before him emanated deep sadness, her empty eyes reflecting the torment of trapped souls. He knew that every word she uttered could be the key to unraveling the mystery surrounding the house, and at the same time, his own life. Ethan. Sarah's voice echoed softly like a whisper in the wind. You need to understand, we weren't here by chance. We were chosen. Chosen for what? Ethan questioned, incredulity mixing with fear. What happened to you and your friends? A ritual. The word left her lips like a lament. We were drawn by the promise of something grand, something we should never have sought. They deceived us. Now we're trapped, doomed to wander forever unless you do what needs to be done. Ethan felt a chill run down his spine. The weight of her words seemed to accumulate in his chest. And what should I do? How can I help you and the others? You are the key, Ethan, Sarah insisted, her form beginning to glow with a soft light. Your arrival was foretold. Only you can break the curse that binds us to this place, but it will come at a cost. Mark, who had been watching in silent anguish, finally spoke, his face pale with horror. Don't listen, Ethan. She's manipulating you. The house wants to consume your soul as it did with ours. Why didn't you tell me, Mark? Ethan turned to his friend, pain and betrayal mixing in his voice. Why did you let me walk into this trap? Because I didn't know, Mark shouted, his anguish exploding into words. I thought I could forget, that if I didn't come back, nothing would happen again. But you brought it all back, Sarah intervened, her presence emanating an almost supernatural calm. Mark, you can't run anymore. You're one of them, and now you have the chance to find peace. But Ethan, he needs to decide. Ethan looked at each of them, his mind reeling with the magnitude of what was about to happen. If I'm the key, what exactly do I need to do? You must offer your essence to the house, Sarah explained, her somber eyes filling with hope. Only then can we break the cycle, but that means you must be willing to sacrifice yourself. The ensuing silence was deafening. The echoes of voices from the past seemed to whisper around them, as if the house was waiting for a decision. Ethan felt the pressure of destiny mounting on his shoulders. It was a choice between life and death, between freedom and eternal damnation. Ethan, Mark began, his voice trembling. You don't have to do this. We can find another way. If not me, then who? Ethan replied, a determination rising within him. If this ends your suffering, then I'll do it." Mark tried to pull him away, but Ethan was already approaching Sarah, feeling the energy pulsing around him. "I'm ready," he declared, his voice firm. "Do what needs to be done." Sarah smiled, an expression that mixed sadness and gratitude. "Thank you, Ethan. You won't be forgotten." Then Ethan closed his eyes and felt a wave of energy flow through him, as if the house itself was absorbing his essence. Memories of his life, his loves and fears began to unravel as he became part of the ritual. The ground beneath his feet trembled, and a bright light enveloped the mansion. Mark watched, paralyzed, as the light swallowed Ethan and Sarah. The house began to disintegrate, walls fading into dust, revealing the blue sky of morning. And in the last moment, Ethan smiled, knowing he was finally freeing not only those who were trapped, but also himself. As the morning light bathed the place, Mark felt a wave of peace wash over him, knowing that the pain was finally coming to an end. He turned to the horizon, where the sun rose majestically, free from the shadows that had once bound it.